Hello and welcome back to the Movie Memo Recaps. Today we are going to recap a 2022 movie named As Good as Dead starring Michael Jai White. Please be advised that there may be spoilers ahead. In the opening scene, we are introduced to our protagonist, Bryant. After waking from a horrific nightmare, we quickly learn about his complicated past. Once a committed cop in the United States, the shadows of his past pushed him to leave everything behind and begin again. He found solace in a little Mexican village, where he hoped his history would not find him. Bryant has successfully begun a new life and goes for a relaxing run every morning as part of his routine. This is followed by a focused practice of his martial arts abilities. While he appears to be alone during these meetings, a young observer named Oscar regularly watches from a distance, aiming to emulate Bryant's every move. The next day marks the beginning of a new chapter in Oscar's life. Intent on putting what he's learned from Bryant into practice, he goes to Bryant's house, only to be surprised when Bryant shows up. Recognizing Oscar's difficulties with a local gang, Bryant chooses to take the child under his wing. Several months of intensive instruction follow and Oscar undergoes a tremendous metamorphosis, both physically and spiritually, under Bryant's leadership. The child who was easily intimidated by street thugs has vanished. Bryant also offers Oscar a part-time job. Throughout this time, Oscar develops a burning desire for professional fighting, prompting him to beg Bryant to train him for an official competition. Bryant, though, hesitates, and eventually declines, probably thinking about his own background. One day, while training, the L-17 gang led by Oscar's freshly liberated brother Hector arrives at Bryant's home. Although the brothers' reunion brings Oscar delight, tension rises when Hector discovers Bryant's previous identity as a cop. Oscar, however, defends Bryant, but while leaving, Bryant warns Oscar that despite Hector being his brother, he might land him in trouble. The scene then moves to a packed gym where Oscar walks confidently into the register and meets Marisol, the person in charge. Her father left her the gym, and she follows its regulations religiously. Oscar is a minor, so she requires him to bring an adult to sign on his behalf. Throughout their conversation, Marisol is clearly taken aback by Oscar's charisma and persistence. As twilight falls, the L-17 gang prepares for a party in commemoration of Hector's return. Oscar, who was intending on leaving early, changes his mind after hearing rumors of a secret subterranean cage fight. He agrees to join the gang for the event because he is intrigued. A strong fighter known as the Collector controls the ring inside the dimly lit underground arena, viciously defeating everyone brave enough to confront him. In an unexpected turn of events, Oscar volunteers to confront this unbeaten champion. The audience's murmurs evolve into screams of surprise, but Oscar exudes serene confidence. Having trained under Bryant's skillful hands, he engages the Collector with Bryant's unusual combat techniques, startling everyone as he brings down the reigning champion. To cap off this achievement, Oscar receives $10,000. Soon after, a video of his stunning victory began to spread on the internet, quickly going viral. Back in the United States, a sharp-suited lawyer working for the fearsome Kilbane stumbles onto the trending video. Kilbane, a criminal magnate previously apprehended by Bryant, notices it as well. He recognizes the distinct fighting style right away, deducing a possible link between Oscar and Bryant. Kilbane wastes no time in instructing his lawyer to dispatch the Gooseman brothers, notorious assassins, on a solitary mission to eliminate Bryant. During this time, the L-17 gang, accompanied by Oscar, arrives at Bryant's house. Hector suggests that Bryant officially coach Oscar for a huge tournament, inspired by a mix of respect and antagonism. Bryant, however, declines it, and warns Oscar not to use the fighting style he taught him. Shortly, Hector tries to approach Bryant's covered car, but he stops him. Being persistent, Bryant tries to approach him, but Hector threatens him with a gun. Surprisingly, Bryant gets his gun faster and orders Hector to put down his gun. After a brief, uncomfortable moment, Bryant orders Hector to step aside, instructing Oscar to accompany his brother and never return. Later, Oscar takes Hector to the gym for the required adult signature, fulfilling Marisol's earlier condition. However, when the Gooseman brothers enter, the situation rapidly becomes tense. They confront Oscar in search of Bryant, only to be warned off by a protective Hector. Oscar feels compelled to warn Bryant after recognizing the Gooseman brothers for what they are, lethal hitmen. Hector warns Oscar to keep his distance from Bryant, but Oscar responds by underlining how Bryant supported his family while Hector was imprisoned. Given Bryant's insistence on not seeing the brothers again, Hector reluctantly agrees to join Oscar at Bryant's apartment, suggesting they bring Marisol along. As a result, the three head to Bryant's with a mixture of determination and trepidation. Marisol strikes up a conversation with Bryant as soon as she arrives. Oscar jumps in, informing Bryant about the scary individuals that had been looking for him earlier. Bryant assumes they've been pursued by the Gooseman brothers after recognizing the gravity of the situation from Oscar's explanation. The calm surroundings are broken by a shower of gunfire as Bryant instructs Oscar to escort Marisol into the safety of his home. Hector flees inside for safety, but some members of his gang are not so fortunate and perish. Bryant's house thankfully is bulletproof. Within its fortified confines, he reveals his previous associations as a member of the Laptown DA, telling how he brought down a sizable section of Kilbane's criminal enterprise. Hector, ever the gang leader, grabs his phone in order to rouse his surviving comrades. Bryant steps in, emphasizing the perils of dealing with professional hitmen like the Gooseman. He then devises a strategy involving Hector, asking him to appear briefly outside a window in the hopes of creating a necessary distraction. One of the Gooseman brothers, unable to resist taking a shot, unwittingly discloses his position as Hector follows through. Bryant takes advantage of the situation and dispatches him with a precise crossbow shot. Driven by revenge, the last Gooseman brother douses Bryant's home in gasoline, intending to reduce it to ashes. Bryant, on the other hand, intercepts him, resulting in a heated altercation. Despite Bryant's dominance and pursuit of answers, the hitman remains defiant, preferring to sacrifice himself rather than betray his employer. Bryant, feeling the weight of his past, expresses his desire to leave the city for good now that the immediate threat has been neutralized. He leads Marisol, Hector, and Oscar through a hidden underground tunnel that leads back to the city's heart. Along the way, he tells the terrible story of Kilbane's men violently assaulting his fiancée. Despite saving her, he recognized they'd never fully be free and vowed she'd never be used as leverage against him again. He took the terrible decision to have her testify that he was her attacker, allowing him to leave for Mexico. Bryant bids them farewell after safely escorting them through the tunnel, their paths splitting in the dimly lit hallway. Bryant's night, though, is far from over. Local law enforcement arrives at his house after receiving a tip. Bryant's house is outfitted with a slew of traps that neutralize most of the officers. With a chance to finish the remaining men before their escape, he however spares them. Back in the United States, an enraged Kilbane orders his lawyer to carry out a dark command that would damage Bryant and everything he loves dearly. Kilbane, fearful of the ramifications if Bryant reappears, orders his lawyer to move quickly, aware that Bryant may freeze their remaining assets if he returns and survives to tell the tale. Hector, carrying the weight of grief, makes his way to the families of his murdered gang members to break the devastating news of their deaths. However, when he leaves one of the homes, he is ambushed and kidnapped by a gang of mysterious figures, who whisk him away to a remote place and demand information on Bryant's whereabouts. Bryant has been following their every step, unbeknownst to them. Suddenly, a familiar character from the previous night appears, a man that Bryant had given mercy to, and uses Hector as leverage. Bryant doesn't waste any time this time. He kills the man, sparking a chase as the others try to catch up with him. Bryant leads them to a hill and turns the tables, using their own machete against them with lethal efficiency. They fall one by one. Bryant and Hector return once the threat has been neutralized. Meanwhile, danger looms at Bryant's residence. Oscar and Marisol are taken by surprise by a bunch of hostile males. While Oscar manages to repel a few, he is taken aback by one opponent wearing a helmet that resembles Bryant's fighting technique. Oscar's fast kick reveals the man's identity, Eric, another of Bryant's students. Eric claims he responded to Bryant's summons and insists on accompanying Oscar and Marisol. He persuades them to go with him to a safer place where Bryant could find them. Oscar, feeling something is wrong, calls Hector surreptitiously. Bryant immediately answers the phone when he hears Eric's name, asking Oscar not to trust him and to relay their location. Oscar gets to give Bryant a partial hint as to their whereabouts before Eric confiscates the phone. Eric throws Oscar and Marisol into the hands of Kilbane's lawyer and a strong crime leader named Don. Desperate for any advantage, the lawyer begs Don to assist in capturing Bryant. Don, who was initially hesitant, changes his mind after learning of his men's deaths at the hands of Bryant earlier. He's enraged and willing to follow any leads. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Eric promotes his knowledge of Bryant as a distinct advantage. When they press Oscar to contact Hector, he cleverly transmits a coded location to his brother. Bryant meticulously plans a surprise assault on Don and Eric in the city's shadowy corners, mobilizing the L-17 for the task. Hector's phone buzzes with the much-anticipated location of Oscar and Marisol as they assemble and weapons are loaded. The L-17 rushes Don's stronghold in quick succession. Inside, Eric and his team quickly take Don and the tricky lawyer into the kitchen's imagined safety. As gunshots fly and anxiety rises, the lawyer, anxious to save his skin, recommends that Oscar and Marisol be sacrificed. Don, understanding the worth of his hostages, turns on the lawyer, branding him a genuine liability, and immediately kills him. Bryant and Hector arrive to reinforce the L-17's forces. Hector misses his target, and the consequence of his time behind bars when attempting to fire down Don's guards. But Bryant quickly neutralizes the threat, and both of them advance, cutting a passage through the opposing force. Inside, Oscar wrestles free from his captor, and engages in a vicious struggle with Eric. Eric manages to steal a nearby handgun just as Oscar obtains the upper hand, tipping the odds in his favor. Marisol steps in and shoots Eric in the leg before he can pull the trigger. Bryant reunites with Oscar amid the subsequent turmoil, facilitating their escape. Don, fueled by hatred, continues to shoot at the fleeing gang. Hector, proving he hasn't lost his touch, puts Don down with a well-aimed shotgun in a pivotal moment. The smoke clears and the horrors of the night fade away. Police sirens break the calm. By dusk, law enforcement had encircled the scene, taking statements. Hector, acting as their spokesperson, recalls the events of the night. Then a familiar automobile arrives, followed by Bryant's long-lost fiancée. In the middle of the chaos, their emotional reunion is a lovely moment. The last scene, masked police officers enter Cobain's protected quarters. They take off their masks, exposing themselves to be gang members, and, most unexpectedly, Bryant. He locks his focus on Cobain, bringing the movie to the end. Thanks for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more of these recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.